I've been working with B2B e-commerce since pretty much the entire time that I started Trellis. It's something that I'm really passionate about, and I think it's still in the infancy in most cases. And a lot of companies really struggle with it. And I think part of that is, one, they just don't even know where the challenges lie ahead. So here are the challenges that I see that most companies kind of underestimate, and something to think about in terms of how are you going to tackle this challenge. Number one is definitely product data. A lot of B2B companies, they might have product data coming from different sources. They're not used to having this like super rich product data that like the normal kind of business to consumer brand is used to, because they're putting like products on a shelf. They kind of already have to have it super well packaged for the consumer. A lot of B2B brands aren't quite used to that, especially from an e-commerce standpoint, in terms of having, you know, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of products on their website with great product data. So that's the first place I would start, making sure you have a great strategy, whether it's a PIM system or just using the e-commerce system, or just some sort of strategy to make sure that that's competitive online. The other big one is definitely just overall B2B e-commerce features. I think that it's still a new industry. There's no platform out there that I would say has every feature, and that's probably not going to be the case. Usually B2B is kind of nuanced, and every company has their own way of maybe doing things a little bit differently. So figuring out what those B2B features are that you need, and how much of those might be part of a B2B platform that can accomplish that for you, and how much might need to be custom or built outside of that. So really start to hone in on what are the B2B features. So most basic example that companies often overlook is the concept of company accounts. If you're B2B, you're selling to companies, they want a company account, they might have multiple users. It's not the same as just a consumer account. And you're seeing companies like Amazon already investing that. We have a Amazon business account, so we can add users to it. It's very different than just your consumer account. The other big one that companies really struggle with is ERP integration. Usually B2B companies have built their business on an ERP like SAP, Infor is a big one that we work with. You know, there's lots of ERP systems that I can name, but you have all this key data in there, and then you have e-commerce, which is just separate from it. So integrating the two is often a big challenge, and a lot of these ERP systems don't really have great e-commerce platforms, so typically you have a different e-commerce system. So really thinking through about how that data is integrated, what is the master system for what, how it kind of goes back and forth, is really important, and something that's often overlooked, which kind of ties into the next point, is pricing. A lot of companies, this is one of the big ones that I see people struggle with, is they never really get traction with B2B e-commerce because they can never figure out pricing on the website. So people just call in. You might have a B2B e-commerce website that looks great, seems like it's great, but the pricing's not real time and accurate. So they're gonna call in and get the real pricing because there's no point in buying on the website. So you have to figure out how to get your website pricing to reflect the same pricing that people would call in to push people in that direction. So something that we've worked really hard to figure out for our customers, and it's usually not something that you can necessarily figure out in one step. It might be a phased approach to get it to where you want it to be. So yeah, those are definitely some of the challenges that we see. The other big one, sorry, I almost forgot to mention, is shipping and fulfillment. That can become very tricky because you're not just fulfilling this little package. You might be doing these big giant orders that might require freight shipping and all these different more complicated logistics. So you really want to think about logistics. There's lots of platforms out there that you can integrate into your e-commerce platform, but overall, logistically, you really want to think big picture about how that's all going to work and how they're going to get real-time, you know, shipping rates on the website, or maybe there's a different way that you want to do it. But shipping and fulfillment is definitely a difficult topic for B2B e-commerce.